Hi guys, it's Monica Sigmon here, and I am super excited to be joining you for today's webinar. And Michael Taylor's with us today in the house.
How about that?
And this was unprepared, obviously, because he didn't wear the uniform. So this isn't something that we planned on, but we're super excited that he's here. And in fact, I don't even think you know what today's topic is.
Photography.
And here we go.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to open over here. I'm going to open up the Q&A tab so that when we have questions, we can make sure to get those for you. And yeah, so welcome. Today, we're going to talk about consistency in portrait marketing. So I'm going to share my screen here. And let's see where it went. And hang on, here we go. All right, so you should be seeing our logo here. If not, somebody in at B&H will let me know. But today we're going to talk about the consistency in portrait marketing and how important that is. I didn't put Michael's name on this slide because, again, didn't know you were going to be here. So it's a bonus treat for us all. This should be fun.
Yes. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think one of the biggest questions that we get from photographers is, how do we market? How do we get business? And so what we want to do today is talk about how you can very intentionally market your business and, more importantly, your art in such a way that you will attract the work that you want to create. And so, so let's dive in. Before we forget, you can scan that QR code, and that'll take you to our education website where we have tons of free stuff and lots of articles and our podcast on there too. So this is our family portrait. For those of you guys who don't know us, we are a photographer family. So Michael and I both work in the studio full time. Those are our two dogs. They come with us every day. And this is our sole source of income. So we are working photographers. I always like to make sure people understand that that's our frame of reference and where we're coming from. So we have a studio in Williamsburg, Virginia. We're really fortunate to be in a retail space, and it's basically one big box. And when you walk in, you'll see the gallery. And this is looking straight in. So we've got a little area for a desk there. And then the blue door just leads to the bathrooms and some storage. And then that other little alcove is where we meet our clients for their design consultation and where we do our selection appointments. So this is from that room looking back to the front. So pretty simple, pretty basic, but we love it. And it's served us really, really well. And the studio just turned 23, and we specialize in family and children's portraits. So that's how each of us got our start when you had your studio in Pasadena. Mm-hmm. And when I started my studio here, and then we combined about 14 years ago.
Somewhere around there.
I'm not really sure.
Let me interrupt you since I'm here.
But you have to scoot up if you're going to talk.
But you know, the thing about the studio, when people come in, I think the good thing about it is that it feels right, you know, and it feels like it's a reflection of our personalities, which it very much is. So when people come in, it has a little bit of a feeling of a loft studio out in New York City. There's beautiful light that comes in, and people know that it's different. You know, they're coming into a place and they're walking through the spot where the work is being made. You know, they're coming in through the camera room, so to speak. So it tends to wow people when they walk in.
Just to let you know, I have our content dialed in to the minute.
Okay.
So feel free to chime in.
So I will just nod my head for the rest of the time.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's get to it. Your artistry is not just reflected in your portraits, but also in how you bring those portraits to the market. And I think that many photographers have a notion that they're just going to kind of hang a shingle outside or say they're photographers, add photography to their last name, and that the business will come. And so that can happen, and it might, but it's not going to be the kind of business that you want. The other thing I think that's really important to kind of give you a frame of reference of where Michael and I come from is that we really believe that if you're that kind of middle market photographer doing what everybody else is doing, then you will not make a sustainable living. You might have a couple good years, but you can't make it for the long haul with that business model. And the reason for that is because when you're on that playing field, everybody looks the same. And potential clients look at the marketplace and they just see 10 photographers and there's no distinction between any of them. So what are they going to shop on?
Price.
Right. They're not noticing that your work is slightly different because of my work in whatever way. Like, we're lucky if clients can tell the difference between good and bad, much less between good and great. So, so it's really, really important that you dial in your voice, dial in your art, and bring it to the marketplace in a very clear and concise way. And Michael and I always say that whatever the popular thing is today, whatever the masses are doing, we're going to run the opposite way. We're going to do whatever's different.
And this is kind of like a chess match. I hit the timer and I have a certain amount of time to talk. So it's really important to say that, in the photography industry, not just now, but 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you did not make money by being in the middle. You made money by working the masses, a quantity type of business, or the higher end, the carriage trade, where you charge decent prices for what you did. And that's true for a lot of businesses, but especially for photography type businesses.
So I just want to clarify, because you said masses and what you meant was volume, because I said masses. We're going to run away from masses. So what you're talking about is like sports photography, underclass,
Cool pictures, things like
all
that,
of that.
where you just consistently, you're going click, click,
Volume.
click, click. Right, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No questions yet. So, oh, wait, hold on. Oh, so there is nobody. I'm so confused where the questions show up. Okay.
That was a question, actually.
All right. So, portrait marketing. Many photographers say, so what? Who cares? It's fine. I'm just going to show my work and people will come. Everything is fine. But the thing is that this is not a build it and they will come scenario. It's not that kind of a business model, and that everything that we do has to be intentional and consistent for it to be effective. And so we have to become known for exactly the kind of work we want to end up doing. So many of us, when we started, had to do a couple of different things, right? Scoot up, get the money where you could get it, start to try different genres, see what you preferred. But as you start to figure out what your lane is, it's super important that you stay in that lane so that, again, your audience can recognize, oh, they do this. So, and it's not enough to just say, oh, they do families and children. It's they do families and children in black and white, or they do families and children in the studio or in a very specific location or in their homes or whatever. It has to be distinct and different. Okay. Just waiting. So another thing that I think is relevant to mention here is that what we used to call marketing materials, but now it's different, right? Today's marketing materials is completely different. Today's marketing materials is our online presence much more than it is printed brochures and postcards and that kind of thing. But those need to mirror, again, the kind of work that you want to be known for, the kind of work that you want to create. We get in a habit, we get in this trap of when we're getting started, we are showing on our socials and our website whatever we happen to be photographing, but that's not necessarily where we want to end up, right?
Because when you're starting out, you're trying different things. So you're
Mhm.
going down this path, that path, whatever, which is good, which is great. Because you're learning to find your voice, and you're learning to talk with your own personal voice. But what you need to do when you talk to your audience, which is your community and your marketplace, you need to talk with one voice, and it needs to be very clear. When I started my studio in Pasadena, for the first 5 years, everything I sent out marketing wise, be it back then direct mail or brochures or displays or whatever, was a child's portrait.
Carrier pigeon.
Okay, was
Sorry.
wow. Okay. The point is, besides, do not use carrier pigeons because then you have to feed them. Was that everything I sent out for the first 5 years was a child's portrait, because I wanted to be known in the Pasadena area as an expert in child photography, not passenger pigeons
Carrier pigeons.
or carrier pigeons.
So if
Passenger
you
pigeons are extinct.
want to photograph family portraits, then that's what you need to show. And we're going to get into a couple of tips and tricks here and specific strategies. But in the meanwhile, we're going to keep going here. And if you're showing a little bit of everything, then clients aren't clear about why they should go to you or what they should go to you for. And I talk about this a lot when we talk about bringing a new portrait line or launching a new product, that kind of thing, which we'll talk about again here in a little bit. But when they pull up your Instagram feed and it's a little bit of a hodgepodge, there's nothing memorable there. There's no reason for them to remember you. And so it's really, really important. And one of the reasons that that's important is because consistency builds trust with your audience. And it helps them to understand what they're going to get if they hire you. And so you might say, okay, so why is that important? And it's because before they pick up the phone or email us or fill out our website form or whatever, we want potential clients to have an idea of who we are and what we do. We always say it's more important that people know what we do than if they like what we do. Right?
Mhm.
Okay. No comment on that one. So again, why is it important? Well, because our expectations have to be aligned, and that way we're not wasting their time, they're not wasting our time, and we just have a sense of they have a sense of who we are before they come into us. Trust and credibility. We are a high-end studio. We charge a lot of money. So people are going to do that more with people they know, like, and trust. And again, it gives us a way to differentiate ourselves from our clients or from our competition. So how? Okay, how do we do that? That's great, Monica, but how? Well, first thing is you have to understand what you're selling. What is unique to you in your business? What's the thing that other people aren't offering? And then once you have that clarity, then that's what you start pushing out in your marketing across your social channels, everything you do, see, write, post, share. Everything needs to be consistent messaging. And so then you kind of have to say, well, where does that come from? What do I know what that messaging is? And that's where building a brand comes in, which I think I've talked about 100 times on B&H podcasts, but it really, really is true that you have to take the time and figure out what it is that you want your brand to be so that you can clearly market it. Because if you don't understand, your audience isn't going to understand. So a brand is how a company differentiates itself from its peer brands. It's the way that your company communicates. It's your personality, it's your culture as a company. And even if you're just a one-man shop, you still have a culture. Your business still has a personality. So that has to be defined first. So then you're going to say, okay, that sounds like a lot of work. How do I figure out what my brand is? I'm not really clear. And I'll say to you that it is a kind of a living document almost. It's something that will evolve, especially if you're newer in the industry. It will evolve over time. And I think it needs kind of an audit every now and then to make sure that you're still on track, you're representing your brand properly, but to make sure also the brand is still what you want it to be. So I always say, first, take a look and decide what it is you want to shoot. And what do you want the work to look like? So it's not enough just to say, I want to photograph families and children. How is that work going to look? Is it inside? Is it outside? Is it in the studio? Is it in the home? Is it more candid? Is it more formal? Is it more casual? Is it colorful? Is it black and white? Like really, really drill down and make that as specific as possible. Who do you want to work with? What does that ideal client look like? Are they young? Are they a little older? Are the children young? Are the children middle school, high school? Do you just want adult families? Do you want families with pets? Are the clients, are the kids in private school or public school? Where, all of those things kind of play into that avatar. Taking a minute to figure out what that client avatar is important, because then you can address the pain points that avatar has. Maybe their family's super busy, the kids are overscheduled with sports and music and all of that kind of thing. And so the effort to get a family in for a portrait session it can be Herculean sometimes, the way these kids are scheduled. So we address that in our marketing right up front, so that they know that we're going to help and we're going to work with them and help alleviate that pain point. So, and then you need to talk about, well, how are you going to attract them? Like, what does that look like? And that tells you, in essence, all of these three things give you the clarity of vision to understand exactly what the art will be, how you're going to conduct your business, what kinds of products you're going to offer. That's really, really important to your personality and brand. We don't sell digital files. I know that is a point of contention for a lot of people, but the only digital files we sell are for headshots, model shots, that are model calls, commercial work.
Yeah.
So it is not to say we don't give social media files. Like, we're happy to provide them. We won't charge for them, but we'll gift them a social media file for any image that they purchase. For us, we believe in the power of the print. And so we want all of our work to be printed, and that's why we don't sell digital files. So decide what kind of product you're going to offer, and then start researching the companies that can provide those products. So if you want to do really high-end albums or wall art or whatever, then you have to figure out where you're going to get that. And then, of course, all of the answers to these questions will help you determine your client experience. So,
can I just say one thing real quick? It's really important that we provide the print, because we want that finished product to be in their hands and on their walls and finished, so that that whole transaction is done and they're able to enjoy it. I mean, truly, if you're going to do a high-end clientele and you're an interior designer, you're not going to take them to IKEA and give them the boxes of furniture for them to put it together. They don't want that. They want that finished product. So for our clients, they want that finished product and they want that done. For a lot of years, I didn't really provide a lot of framing options. And, it hurt my business, because people would have the portrait, they would take it home and they'd put it in the closet or put it on a desk or something like that and didn't hang it up on their walls. That whole transaction wasn't done.
Well, so and then they don't want to come back because they think, oh, well, I haven't used the portraits I already did.
Exactly right. And I think that's a big issue with digital files also. So there's a lot of reasons why our business is the way we set it up.
So once you do that exercise and take your time and really answer those questions, then the clearer vision you have for your brand, and then that brand is the center spoke of the wheel. Everything else radiates out from that. So it's everything you do, say, share, write, tell, whatever. Every single thing radiates out from your brand. And so not only does it have to be consistent, but it has to be protected at all times. So I know a lot of photographers have had a hard year this year. It's like the delayed effect of COVID being done. We thought everybody got their travel out of their system last year. This year, it seems like people are traveling even more. So I know a lot of studios that have been rather slow this summer. And so that's when it's tempting to do something like mini sessions or freebies or something like that. And I would just caution you, because we've made that mistake. And it took us, in the short amount of time that we helped our cash flow, it took us years to undo the damage that it did to our brand. So just be careful of that.
And
Protect
the
it.
help with the cash flow wasn't that great,
No, it
you
wasn't.
know, so it was really not worth it in two different ways.
We were just kind of desperate. So decide what it is you want to be known for, and then communicate it in everything you do. Let's talk about the value of authenticity for a minute, because this is something else that will set you apart from your competition. So everybody now is on the AI train. That's a big point of controversy, and I think it certainly has its place, but where you can stand out as a brand is with your work being authentic, with your voice being authentic. Again, like we said, wherever the masses are going, we're running the opposite way, because we don't want to compete in a field of 100 photographers. We want to be the only one over here doing this, because whether they like it or not, they do recognize what we do and they remember us, and we're much more likely to be aligned with the clientele that we're trying to attract. So be yourself, give them a reason to believe you, give them a reason to remember you. The bottom line is that people buy from people that they trust, and nothing fosters that trust more than authenticity. So take a minute, figure out what you want to be known for, figure out what your voice is. Don't try and be somebody else. Don't say, well, they write this way, it's more casual, I'm going to write more casual. Like in my posts, I have a photographer friend across the country who's so great, so funny, so cool, and writes really well. And it's just, I would love to be that, but it's not me. I tend to write a little bit more formally and a little bit more sentimentally. And so just kind of pick your lane, decide what it is, and stick with it. And in today's world of AI, also, I think we have to be really careful, although we all are getting great help from some of these chat tools. I think that they can be really, really helpful, but we have to make sure that we're not just taking what that says and plugging it in anywhere on our socials or our website. It needs to have our voice, because you can start to tell what's written by AI and what's being written by a person. So the AI is good at facts and outlines and things like that, but it's not great yet at really writing how you would write. It gets close sometimes, but it's not perfect. All right, anything?
No, I think this is hugely important, because when you capture truth and realness and someone's authentic personality, also, see, we're carrying this idea all the way through in the capture of our portraits and the creation of our portraits and how we, in our product lines, that's what's going to last. Authenticity is going to last. The truth of the story is going to last. And it's a harder thing to do. And that's why people jump on certain trends and certain bandwagons and Photoshop things to death, because they're not able to capture the truth and capture it well and in a flattering way.
Kind of on that note, the more we can differentiate ourselves and be true to our voice is, I think it was last summer, and on the radio on Sirius, there was this ad for mattresses. Do you remember this? And it was like, all the mattress ads, if you've noticed, are really loud, whether they're on TV or radio, they're really loud. There's someone shouting about a sale, whatever. And so this ad was about how after 8 years
Oh, yeah.
Your mattress has been kind of like replaced by dead skin cells and
8 years of dead skin cells.
8 years of dead skin cells and
Yeah.
sweat. And what they were trying to get at was, if you've had your mattress for longer than 8 years, it's time to refresh. And so what I thought was so interesting is I remembered that fact, and we bought a mattress, but I have no idea which mattress company,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
store ran the ad.
Yeah, because we drove into the first mattress store that we saw.
Basically, like drove across 4 lanes and cut off the highway. But
Yeah.
the point of that is, without a unique voice, without an authentic voice, there's no telling one place from the next. So that's when people start to
Yeah, that was
shop
like
on
a great,
price.
that was a great comment industry wide, but it didn't drive people into that particular business.
Right.
You know,
Exactly. So it's not enough to say family portraits are important.
Mhm.
You have to really dial it in and say why they're important for you to do it, for this studio specifically to do it.
Mhm.
Okay, so we are going to keep it moving. So the top 5 mistakes that photographers make when trying to market their business and their art. So number 1, lack of focus. So this is like,
So it's blurry? No, sorry.
who invited you here today? So this is that, again, they're not dialed in on their messaging, and it's a little bit of hodgepodge. Hey, we do this and we do this and we do this and we do this, and it's like everywhere. What's that movie? All Things Everywhere All at Once or something. That's how I feel like photographers marketing can be if we're not careful. So we don't want to be a master of all trades. That notion could not be further from the truth. We do not want to be for the jack of all trades. We want to be specialists. We want to be the best of the best in a very specific lane, a very specific part of the business. So you can't show things like family photography and your wildlife photography and your models and like all in the same place. Like it's got to be really clearly delineated.
Yeah, it's like when you look at somebody's website and all the different listings of what they're able to do is just remarkable, you know?
Yeah.
And part of that's panic, you know? We panic because we need money.
Yeah.
So we start throwing out these little lost leaders or whatever, you know, and hope
Well,
we get.
it's just, it's jack of all trades, but master of none. They're trying to appeal to as many people as possible. But again, people won't remember that.
Well, you know, I think people worry that, you know, they really want to appeal to everybody.
Well, think about too,
so-
like your general practitioner used to be when I was a kid, like, or even a young adult, general practitioners were like, they did everything for you. You went to the doctor when you were sick, when you broke your leg, whenever, like they did all of the things. Now I go for my annual physical and it's like, oh, I'm having this problem with my ankle. Let me refer you to an orthopedist. Oh, I'm having some trouble with my thyroid. I think, let me refer you to an endocrinologist. Like everything's being farmed out. So basically that GP is kind of like a clearinghouse, and she probably makes okay money, but who's really making the money are all of those specialists that she's farming out to. So kind of keep that in mind too. We have got to pick up the pace here. So inconsistency in branding is another big mistake. Again, it's so important that you're consistent in order for a client to build trust and feel like they know you. People want to do business with people they like. And so if one campaign you look really formal and expensive, and then the next one you're trying to be kind of that everyday candid photographer, that's inconsistent. And again, every time you're not being consistent is getting you one step further away from being remembered. This is a big one because oftentimes photographers are saying, well, this is the work that I make today, but I really want to make that work. And so this is a cycle, and it takes a long time if you don't identify it, because what happens is we built our business here for 17 or 18 years on outdoor portraits. And then about 5 years ago, we started a new studio line, which is all of these portraits that you're seeing on our slides. We call them Black Label. And it's a very specific, very dialed in look. And so when we were doing outdoor photography, then guess why people called us? Because they saw outdoor photography and they saw it on our website, and they saw it when we donated to an auction, or they saw it on our Instagram. Everything was outside, outside, outside. And so when they came in, we were so bored of doing outside, but that's all we were sure. They can't imagine what else we can do. We can imagine it, but they can't imagine it. And so we have to show exactly what it is that we want to start photographing and the kind of art that we want to sell. And so if you don't have that yet, you don't have that portfolio built up yet, then that's where you have to be very intentional, very deliberate, and build out that portfolio over here on the sidelines while you're working on your business. And then you're going to build that library of images and come to the marketplace with a complete line that you can launch. So that's a whole other program. I think we have that in the B&H library, but super important, because what happens is when photographers shoot something they're really excited about, what do they immediately post it on social, right? Because we all want everyone to tell us that it's amazing.
Right.
Yeah. And so, and then we go back to another month or two of just doing our regular work. And then maybe another amazing session comes and we put that up. Well, what happens is those things now, remember, just think of an Instagram feed as kind of a metaphor for all of your marketing. But when we do one thing here and one thing there, they look like a one-off. They don't look like that's what you're in the business of doing. It looks like you got lucky, or it looks like you took that image at somebody else's workshop. It doesn't look like you. So as excited as we get, it's super important, if you're going to try and clean up your brand, show what you clean up what you're showing, that we build a whole library and sit on it over here while we're building it, and then come to the marketplace and launch all at one time. So it looks like that's what we do. We're in the business of doing that.
I would also say that I think I think all of us run into this thing where we get a little bored maybe of what we're showing.
Mm-hmm.
We get a little bored with that tagline that we're using, or that style of design, or the style of portraits we're doing, maybe a little bit. But you got to realize people aren't living it every day that are looking at this. So we have to be consistent, and we have to do the long game with it. So just because you just got to look at that long road and realize you need to populate that road, with the right images.
Number 4, again, overlooking the importance of authenticity, displaying that genuine passion for your work and staying true to your style will help people identify who you are, what you do, and then connect with that. So the idea being that people who are looking for something different aren't calling you, and that's okay. We want people to be aligned with our culture, our art, and the way we do business. So the clearer we are about that, the better it is for everybody. And then this is another really, sounds basic, but you've got to hone your craft. It's not enough to just know how to photograph. You could be the best photographer in the world, but if you don't know how to market, you don't know how to run a business, you don't know your numbers, you can't make it. On the other side of that coin, there are plenty of mediocre photographers making a ton of money because they're taking the time to learn how to run a business. They know what their numbers need to be. They are social media savvy. And so don't neglect that. Gone are the days where we could just be amazing at our art and be rewarded for that. It's a different playing field. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've talked about the top 5 mistakes. So let's solve some of those problems. And I'm going to give you 10 ways to market portraits. Some of these are going to seem a little basic, I'll just say, but I think it's important to hear them together in one class and in this context, because there's everything on here you've heard probably somewhere else before. But again, pulling them together so you can have one key list of things to look at, I think might be helpful for you. So number 1, do an audit of your website. And by audit, I mean start at the beginning and go all the way through every page, everything. Look at your wording. Is the tone of voice on this page consistent with the tone of voice on this page? And is that tone of voice, in fact, the tone of voice you want to speak in, you want to communicate in? Is all of the work up to par? Is it all current? Is it all consistent? And sometimes we just put so much work on our website that it's like, what happens? People just do this, right? They just scroll and scroll, and they're not stopping to look at it, to look at any one thing. So I would rather people show less portraits and they are excellent and memorable than to show 20 just average portraits that
this is
don't have anything to
this
stand
is
out.
a historical problem. Photographers need to edit, and a lot of times we know a story, or we know the huge issues that we overcame to get this one image. So we think it's incredible, but we need to edit. Most of the time we probably need to take 50% of what we're showing out, because we want that what's left to be a wow, right? We want people to stop and quit turning the page or flipping the album or whatever it is, however they're looking at it. And that was the same, that was true years ago when people were sending, commercial photographers were sending their physical portfolios to ad agencies and art directors and things like that. Same problem.
My goal is always to create a portrait that stops the scroll, right? Like I want to create something different and just unusual enough that it's just kind of like, wait, what was that? And just pause for just a second, because this endless scroll does nothing for any of us. And so, so I try and create portraits. Maybe they're not earth-shattering, but they're always clean, they're consistent, and they usually are intriguing in some way. So, so do that website audit. Take down, it's like when you move into a new house, take down pack up everything from the old place and only bring across the threshold the things that you love. And that's the same thing you should do when you're working on your website. And the same goes for your social media. So Instagram, websites are still super important, but the feed on your Instagram is so often what people go to first. And that feed has to be, it's like the new website, right? So it's got to be consistent and clean. If it's one kind of work and then another kind of work, and then it's outside and then it's headshot and then it's this and that, it's just so hodgepodge that people don't recognize what it is you do, and it's not memorable. They won't remember you. And then particularly if you're throwing in personal, like here's what I had for dinner kind of photos, then that really muddies it up. So if you look at my Instagram, Monica Sigmon, you'll see how I've kind of grouped things together so that it's very clean and you can start to recognize, hopefully, my style pretty quickly.
I think a good word to remember is the word confused. You don't want people to be confused when they look at your website or to hear about your studio or look at Instagram or whatever it is. You don't want people to go, what? What's going on here? What's happening? So if you're confused, and maybe a friend of yours is confused when they're looking through things to help you with that audit, that's a point to be taken.
And I always suggest get somebody you trust to look at your website and your social and have them describe for you what they're seeing? Describe the work. Is it formal? Is it fun? Is it traditional? Is it, there's no right or wrong answers, but it's always eye-opening to hear from somebody else that you trust, who will be honest, how they would describe your work and your website and your social overall. Because if those adjectives that they're using don't line up with the adjectives you wanted to be used back when you were building out your brand, then there's a disconnect. You're not communicating it properly. So if you really wanted to create something formal and traditional, and they're saying, oh my gosh, this is so fun and it's so natural, those two things, none of them are wrong, but they don't work together. They're not the same thing. So that's always a quick and easy way to see some inconsistencies there, some incongruencies. Same thing with your blog. And if you don't blog, you should. It's really, really good for your SEO. And the more things we can give to our clients or potential clients for free, the better it is for them to get to know us, the more chances they have to get to know us. So write some articles about the importance of family portraits and relationships and those kinds of things, and then illustrate those articles with your artwork, and then push them out across your channels, push them out across your emails. So if you don't do an email newsletter, I strongly recommend doing that, and just kind of send something out once a month, once every quarter if you can't commit to once a month. But again, giving value makes people know you, like you, and trust you. And you also are very well served by being top of mind. So the more problems that you can solve, the more indispensable you become. So when clients need to know, like, where they should take their dog to be groomed, they know we're huge dog people, and we come to their mind and they'll say, Monica, where do you guys get your dogs groomed? Or who's your vet, or whatever. So same thing with those of you who have children, where do you get your child's haircut? You want to be that person that they go to for answers. And the more problems you solve, the more likely they're going to keep turning to you. And then they're going to have this messaging from you just constantly, consistently, this undertone of why family portraits are important. And then when it finally clicks that they're time to do that, who are they going to call? It's going to be you. So your newsletters can show a recent family portrait session, show some behind the scenes, maybe add a client testimonial in there, because again, people want to know it's not all about us. They want to see and hear what others' experience is. And so that can really go a long way. And when you're asking people to write a Google review for you or something of that nature, use that same language. They've already done the work. Use that on your website. Use that in your social media posts. Use that on an email article when you call your client to say, I'd love to feature you in your session in my next month's newsletter. Can you write a testimonial for me? Can you tell me something about how you felt during the session, or how you felt when we hung the art for you? So there's a lot of opportunities. If you feel that if your brand and your marketing isn't where it needs to be, there's a lot of little things that you can be doing to help those things along the way.
And can I say, these client testimonials, to me, that, look back again into the 90s and look what Amazon did when they first started selling books. It was the book reviews and it was the ratings that individual people gave that gave credibility to all these different products. Mm-hmm. So we have all changed the way we've shopped, because we're looking at reviews, we're looking at what people say on Yelp about, or Google about restaurants, things like that. We need to let other people talk about us, and that's what's really powerful. And it's always been powerful. But when people are championing you, that moves other folks to do something.
It's interestingly, now I sound like an old person, but this week on CBS Sunday Morning,
which you have to be over 65 to watch it usually.
The Life Well Lived segment was on the woman who was CEO of Consumer Reports and how that revolutionized the way that we buy things,
Mhm.
because now reviews are such an important part. So
It's amazing. Every feature story on a musician, the person's like 83, you know,
know.
so yeah.
becoming our parents. Okay, so promotional materials are also super important. We're not talking about printed materials anymore per se, although sometimes, but many of the promotion is on social media. However, when you do print something, now it stands out, right? So what can we be printing? What can we have as like a physical touch piece of collateral that adds legitimacy to our business? So we use Vision Art Fine Art Books. They're amazing printers. And we use these albums not only for our clients, but when we're meeting with a client in our design consultation, we have a studio sample that's a chapter book. And so it will show, here's this color palette, here's if you want to do it in your home. And behind each chapter is a couple of images that can show that. So when somebody's meeting with us, we have some things to refer to, and it's tactile, and they start really understanding, okay, this is what the coffee table books are that they sell, and they're touching it and they're feeling it. We also do, on occasion, we used to do it more often, but on occasion, we will print. Oops, sorry about that.
Oh, sorry, bud.
Ran over the dog.
Sorry.
Sorry, Betty. On occasion, we'll print these 8.5 by 11 magazines, and they're just for the studio. And we have tremendous success when we print these, because we'll put a bookmark in it. We'll send it to the clients that are featured. We'll hand them out to local businesses. We put them out on our coffee table. So that's just an idea for marketing material also. Okay, so did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Well, on the commercial side, we've done a lot. We do a lot of healthcare, and she put a medical magazine together. That's every time I send it out to someone that's interested in using us, they book the job.
Mm-hmm.
So there is something about occasionally having a printed piece that they can.
Because now nobody has printed
Correct.
pieces, so.
Again, it sets you apart.
Yeah, they're always just being sent an Instagram or a website link or something like that.
Mhm.
Okay, so next up, model calls and launch. So I kind of referenced this earlier. If you don't have the kind of work that you want to be known for, you don't have enough of it that you can show, then you've got to build a portfolio over here while you're doing the main thing, and be collecting that work so that you can come to the table with this whole new line, or this whole new look, or this new specialty, if you will. So maybe you're not changing your work, but you really want to show more of your work. Then you can ask people, hey, I need some new samples for our website and our social media. I really want some current updated portraits to show. And so that gives reason of people to come in. You give them a little gift certificate, and then that really, really helps for you to meet more people, see new people, build the work, be shooting. We're all better humans when we're photographing, I think. And then after you make that collection, then you can really come and say, ta-da, here's our new website, or here's this new line, here's this new black and white line that we're doing, or whatever that is. So that takes longer than some of these other things that we've given you as tips, but it's super, super impactful. We're going through a model call right now. And I have, I think, 8 or 9 sessions in the next 5 days. And then our launch is at the end of September. And so we'll have a full library of images that will fill our feed and look really consistent really quickly. You can teach classes in your community about how to take better iPhone pictures, or how to take better vacation photos, the importance of family photos. Like, all of those kinds of things are a great way to get out in the community. Maybe a fellow business whose clients are really aligned with the kind of client that you want to have can host this for you. If you have a physical studio space, you could host it in your studio. And so those are ideas about getting in front of people. Whenever you can be the expert or the authority on something, again, people are more likely to trust you. partner with a local business, like I just mentioned. Maybe there's a gift exchange where their really great client gets a gift from your studio that allows them to come in and try you out. Do business with the merchant themselves, give them photography. Any and all of those things are really helpful. And then be sure that you're showing a lot of behind the scenes content, so people know what to expect when they come to you, and they can see the experience, and they can see a little bit of how you run the show and how your studio operates. Okay. Consistency is super important also in everything that you deliver. It's not just enough to be consistent in your marketing. You've got them in now. Now you have to be consistent on everything that you're delivering. So your products, your the physical items that you're selling. We are a Sony family, and we switched to Sony long before my relationship with Sony started to begin. And we just believe with our whole hearts that this is the best gear you can shoot with. We would not have a Black Label portrait line. So all the portraits that you've been seeing today, we wouldn't have that had it not been for Sony. We tried, but we couldn't get enough low-end detail. We didn't have enough dynamic range with our other system. And then we made the switch to Sony, and it's safe to say that that saved this line, which had been inside of me, which I wanted to bring forward, which is now more than half of our studio revenue is from Black Label. So it's really important that you're using the best gear. And for us, it's the Sony Alpha system and all of the lenses. Also, be consistent in your processes. So this is kind of a matrix that we built out a couple of years ago that shows all the steps of interaction between us and our client, what has to happen at each step in that journey, what collateral or education or information they get at different steps in that journey. And the nice thing about building this out and being consistent with it is that no matter where Michael or I meet that client in the process, we know the information they've already been given, we know what they've been told, and we know we probably have to repeat it. And so it's done over and over the same way. And that really, really helps. Okay, so let me skip ahead here. And also, let me just actually come back. When you have a workflow like this, you can identify all of the areas of opportunity that will give you content. So these are some areas within those like columns I had going across. So things that we can photograph behind the scenes when they're choosing a frame, things that we're doing to set up the session, all of those items can come over to the left of your diagram there that says content. And so when you have a workflow built out, you're much more deliberate in creating and then sharing that content. And then we also have to be really consistent in the art that we deliver. For us, Black Label, like I said, we launched it 5 years ago, and it's just been incredible for us. But the work looks distinct and recognizable and unlike anything we've offered before. So this is kind of what my Instagram feed looks like on the daily. It's just consistent. It's the same coloring. It's the same soft expressions. And so people kind of know what to expect if they want a Black Label portrait, because that's all I'm showing in our feed, or in my personal feed at least. On that note about Black Label, I did want to share that we are having a workshop coming up in October, the end of October, and 8 lucky students will be coming to Williamsburg for a week, and we will be teaching all things Black Label. Then we have some online workshops afterwards that tie into that curriculum. And at the end of 4 months, you'll submit a portfolio for review, and you will be a certified Black Label studio. And all of our students that have done this in the past are hugely successful. Their clients are clamoring for this work because there's nothing else that they've seen like it. So if you're interested in that, just scan that QR code. It'll take you right to the website, and there's tons of information on there. In the meanwhile, I'm going to just take a peek and see if we have any questions. And if so, we will answer those real quick before we sign off. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of add to all of the things we've talked about today?
No, you did great.
Do I have him trained well or what? No, for real.
No, I mean, this is,
Okay, you got it.
yeah.
All right. So thank you to our friends at B&H. Let me stop sharing this for just a second. And so that I can actually look into the camera and say thank you to our friends at B&H for inviting us back. We'll have another webinar for you next month, and each month from now until the end of the year. So definitely tune in and see what we've got coming up next. But thank you to B&H for continuing to be so invested in our industry. And thank you to Sony, because if Sony wasn't sponsoring this, it would be difficult for us to do. So we really appreciate Sony and their dedication to our industry too. So you can always find me if you have questions. Find me on Instagram at Monica Sigmon. That's probably the best way. Or you can go to the website that I showed you on that QR code, which is SigmonTaylor edu.com. I had to think about it for a second. SigmonTaylorEDU.com. Sign up for our newsletter so you'll know we put out tons of free education. And so we'd love to see you on our website too. I guess that's it.
That's great.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Happy Monday.